We are one night away from the U.S. men's national team's opening Nations League game against Grenada, and I'm especially excited for this game for really only one reason, and that's that I'm going to be at the game. I'm heading there tomorrow morning. I'm going to be in Austin, and I'm going to get to check out the game live. It's going to be the third game that I've gotten to see, I think, in the last couple of months, so I'm really fired up about it. Outside of that, outside of actually being in attendance and being able to go to the game, I'm not sure there's a whole lot to be excited about with this Grenada game, but I am anxious to hear what you guys have to say about it. I'm also anxious because for the first time ever, we're going to be doing live phone-ins. If you guys see at the bottom of the screen is the number. I think I have it all set up to where I can take calls. We'll see. We're going to be learning on the spot together. I'm hoping you guys are kind to me in this, and everything goes well. So we'll see what happens. So I'll be taking your comments from the comment section, and if you guys want to call in, you're welcome to do so as well, and we'll kind of see how that goes. As far as the U.S. men's national team right now, I'm really curious what you guys are feeling. I know we just had two really important games against important teams, against World Cup quality teams in Morocco and Uruguay. So I'm curious what you guys are thinking as far as what's going to happen in the Nations League game, how Greg is going to set up the team. Are we going to go with a roster that is similar to what we saw over the past two games with two really strong sides? Or are we going to throw kind of everything at it? I watched Greg's pregame press conference just about an hour ago, and he was pretty coy. He said it's a competitive game. He's treating it as a competitive game, and that he's not going to reveal any roster information. So we don't really know anything. At the same time, though, he kind of hinted that we might see some players that we haven't seen so far. So maybe that means that we'll see like a Malik Tillman get a full run out, maybe a George Bello. I don't really know. I think there's also an opportunity. Guys, we got our first call, so we're gonna take this live on air. We're gonna see how this goes. Hey, what's up? You're on the Yank Report. Tell me your name and tell me where you're calling from.
Hey, this is Anthony. I'm a first-time caller to the show, and I'm calling from Florida.
Wait, hold on, Anthony. I don't think I got you over the air. Let me call back in a second. Let me set this up real quick. My bad. Let's see. I did everything except for connect the actual phone to the mixer. So once we get that, we can yeah, Kevin Paula, it says we can barely hear him. Yeah, that's my bad. I did not connect the phone to the Rodecaster. So if you want to call back in, it's connected now, and we should be good to go now. Dude, technology is interesting. I had everything set up to take phone calls, and I just tried to go on the straight red card like 10 minutes ago, and because everything's set up for phone calls, I could not actually hear Derek and Brett, so that made things really difficult. So let's go back to this caller. Hey, what's up? You're on the Yank Report. Tell us your name and tell us where you're calling from. Hello? Oh, man, it's still not. Let's see. All right, I think we got you now. Hello? 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 Hey, what's up? This is Sam. This is the Yank Report. Tell us where you're calling from and who you are. Yes? No? Maybe? Yes? Hello? So far, it's not going well, fellas. Jaybird, I appreciate the love, man. So while I'm trying to straighten this out, guys, let me know what your thoughts are going on right now for this team, what you're expecting to see tomorrow night. Sam only has a rotary phone. I love it. What's up, caller? You're on the Yank Report? Hello? 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 All right, that definitely works. Little Rod Stewart. I hope I don't get taken down for that. Let's see. Let's see what we can do to actually make this work. Oh, it sounds like it's working now. You guys can hear that, right? Hey, caller, you're on the Yank Report. What's your name and where are you calling from? No, I still can't hear you.
Is it coming? I hope
Test, 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 test.
Hello?
Yeah, there we are. We got you. What's up, man?
This is Anthony
Anthony, where
from
you're
Florida.
from Florida. What's going on, man?
Sam, I have a question for you. I've noticed with the past few years in terms of our forward position, it seems like we develop a lot of wingers, but we can't develop the true number 9 position. Why is it that the U.S. struggles with that position? Are we better at developing the winger position more than the actual true target forward, like you see a Ronaldo or a Messi, a Ronaldo or a Ronaldinho or something like that, like those type of target forwards and stuff like that?
I don't know, man. I don't know that it's like an issue necessarily with like U.S. soccer and our development. I think we've seen in national teams across the world that sometimes developing a striker at the level of everybody else is difficult. I remember whenever Spain was the best team in the world, they had David Villa and Fernando Torres, but they would also play like Cesc Fabregas at the striker position. Germany, whenever they won the World Cup, they had, oh gosh, I can't remember. They had
Thomas Müller.
yeah.
Thomas Müller.
Well, Thomas Mueller was like the 10, but they had, oh gosh, I forgot the guy's name who was playing in front of them, but they kind of struggled to produce strikers as well. Like it's kind of a crapshoot with national team development. Sometimes you get a lot of good players in one specific position. Sometimes you get it across the board. That's really what you're going for.
No, that's what I'm saying. It seems like we're not as consistent. Is our developmental system still far behind the other countries because we have most of our athletes are going to other sports and stuff like that, like baseball and football and basketball and stuff like that, because it seems like we're so far behind in terms of in general developing a lot of positions and stuff like that compared to like Spain, Italy, England, Germany and stuff like that.
I hear
and
you're coming
Argentina.
from. I don't think so, because if you look at the past few national teams, we've had really good strikers at the youth level. I mean, Josh Sargent was
not the traditional striker that I'm talking about. Not the target forward like a Ronaldo or something like that.
Like R9. You talking about? Yeah, Haji
CR7.
Wright was seen as like a traditional striker, and he was a very big prospect whenever he was coming out. It's just that issue of once they hit 20, 23 years old, like to get them to that next level. And I think we've seen some of the players develop and hit that next level, and some of the players just flat out haven't. I think Josh Sargent
Dempsey was a perfect example. Clint Dempsey was a perfect example, or was he just an anomaly?
Clint Dempsey wasn't really a striker. I mean, he didn't really become a striker until a lot later on in his career, and he never really was like a classic striker. He started out as a winger and kind of eventually moved closer and closer to the middle.
Josie Altidore.
Yeah, Josie Altidore is another one. I mean, if you look at the U.S. youth prospects, like there have been youth prospect strikers that have been seen as potential big-time players for a while now. I mean, Josie Altidore was one. Juan Agudelo came out right after him. Then it was Haji Wright. Then it was Josh Sargent. Then it was Sebastian Soto. These guys at the time were just as big a prospect as say Tim Weah or Serginho Dest or whoever else. You know, Paxton Pomacall was a big youth prospect.
Well, when I look at, you brought up Dosh. For me, I don't see him as a he would be better. He's not like a true up top forward. He would be like if you're playing two strikers, like he would be the guy playing underneath, the striker that plays underneath usually, like. If you're playing a two-striker system, like you see, I think Germany or England plays a two-striker system where they have two strikers on a left and right striker. He's like that. He's not like that type of striker where he's not a target. He's not a target guy. Like that target forward is hard to develop in general, right?
I don't think it's necessarily harder to develop than any type of other striker. And Josh Sargent, whenever he arrived at Bremen, I think was looked at as a target striker. I mean, that was part of the reason why they brought him in. And if you look at him from the youth level, he certainly played like that. I mean, he was unbelievable at the youth level. So whenever we're talking about U.S. soccer development, go ahead.
No, what I'm saying what I'm saying, when I look at now when he's playing with the national team, the actual senior team, is it just the schematics we're playing at, the formation we're playing at with what's his name, Greg Berhalter, that feels like he's playing him out of position and stuff like that? That's why.
I think the reason why Josh Sargent has been moved at Norwich out to the wing is because he was not getting in enough goal-scoring positions, and that's something that's consistent with the way he was playing at Bremen. So they wanted his ability to press and his work rate and his defensiveness on the field, but couldn't sacrifice his lack of goal scoring up top. At least that's what was going on at Norwich. We haven't seen Josh with the U.S. men's national team since, I believe, the first window of World Cup qualifying. And I believe the last game that he played was against Honduras, and he was played on the wing whenever Ricardo Pepi started as the striker. That's
who I look at. Ricardo, for me, might be the future, but I still need more consistency from him. He's been hot and cold with his club.
Yeah, and Ricardo's a big guy, and he plays like a big guy, and we've seen glimpses of him being a big target striker. But I think the game that you're talking about, that real back-to-goal target striker thing, is something that has to be developed later on. I remember whenever Josie Altidore came out, that's not an element of his game that was very good. And then whenever he eventually made his way to AZ Alkmaar, I think he developed that in a huge way. And later on in his career, that was like the biggest part of his game was his target striker and his ability to hold up the ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Do you think the traditional target striker in the world of football maybe is not becoming extinct, but that type of striker is being phased out?
Well, it's always going to be an asset. It's always going to be an asset, but I think specialization in soccer, just like I think specialization in most sports, is kind of going by the wayside, and you have to be able to do a little bit of everything. Just like there's no longer number 10s who are just expected to be creative and not participate in the defense. You can't be a striker.
Or something
like a Ronaldinho. Just like players like that are kind of gone. It's extinct at this point, and everybody's expected to participate in all elements of the game. So strikers are expected to participate in all elements of the game, whether that be in combination play. You're seeing a lot more strikers drop in and combine than ever before. You're seeing strikers rotate in and out of that striker position, become wingers. I mean, if you look at like Manchester City, sometimes they don't even play with a striker. They just kind of rotate. Chelsea's the same way. They've been playing with, I can't remember the guy's name, the German kid. He kind of comes in and out of that striker role.
Erling Haaland.
No, not Erling Haaland. There's Timo Werner, and then there's I can't remember his name. But yeah, you have to be a little bit versatile. So I don't know that developing one role is something that we're going to see very often. Kai Havertz is the guy's name. Caller, I appreciate you calling in. You are the very first caller ever for the Yank Report, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the conversation, but we got to move on. So thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Hey, the phone works, guys. That was really cool. Kai Havertz. Yeah, everybody knows. I'm sure I'm like most of you where there's a couple of players that you just forget their name. And we got another caller. Hey, caller, you're on Yank Report. Tell me your name and tell me where you're calling from. Say that again?
I'm John. I'm from Oklahoma.
John, can you turn down your computer? I'm getting like feedback.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Yeah. So what you got, man?
Okay, I have a question actually. What is it like being a creator in this YouTube sphere?
It's really interesting, man. It's really different. Most of the time you're just like by yourself creating things. Like I'm in my office right now. I've been the only person in here all day, and it's weird that you put things out in front of thousands of people, and like people think that you have like a big organization behind you, and there's all these people helping you out. Whenever you don't, it's all on you. There's just like the constant pressure to come up with new ideas, to kind of get things out, and then also like my regular job, my 9-to-5 job, is to like work all that stuff in. So it's been an interesting thing, but it's also been really cool to really engage with the community. Like I've been involved with the U.S. soccer community forever. So like being on message boards and being wherever else, like talking to people about soccer. But now I'm kind of in a different role, and I get to hear like a lot of different perspectives and hear from a lot of different people. So it's really cool in that regard. And then there's the other side where you get the opportunity to talk to people like. In the past year, I've talked to Hercules Gomez. I've talked to Jimmy Conrad. I've talked to Max Bretos. I've talked to Alexi Lalas. Like, these are people that I've watched on TV, like my whole life. It's so cool to get to meet these people, ask them questions. Like, I remember I was reading a book about the 1994 U.S. men's national team, and it was really interesting. But it was so cool that I got to, like, talk to Alexi Lalas after that about those things that I read about and like ask him firsthand stuff. So to answer your question, it's stressful at times. The pay isn't great, but it offers you a lot of really cool opportunities.
All right, that's awesome. Well, what is it like communicating with the other creators? Do you guys have a communication that is ongoing, or?
Yeah, actually. So depending on who it is, like, whenever I first started my channel, Kicking It with Drew reached out like immediately. So I got to meet him pretty early on. And then Filippo, tactical manager, reached out pretty early on as well. And Filippo, like, he had like 4,000 subscribers at that time. Like, I had like 500 subscribers. So it's not like the 20,000 that he has today, but he wanted to be very helpful. And like early on, we kind of talked to each other about like, I got this sponsorship opportunity. Should I take this? What do you think about this? So whenever we talk to each other, like I don't think we never talk about like soccer or the national team. We never talk about that stuff. It's usually about the content creator side stuff, and like me and Filippo send each other memes a lot, so we do that as well. And whenever there's big opportunities and whenever people are kind of trying new things, I know like Jake's reached out and Filippo's reached out, and like the guys from the Straight Red Card, we talk and kind of share notes and kind of see what's going on and what people are doing in the space, and kind of learn from each other like that. So it's been a really cool and really supportive community.
That's interesting. I'm actually glad that you brought up Filippo. It seems like he's not as supportive of the small-time creators as he used to be. Do you get that feeling, or?
I'm still in contact with him all the time. Like, actually, with the Since 76 launch is like a great example. Like, I had been talking to him about that since I saw him at the Panama game in Orlando. I kind of talked to him a little bit about it, and as we got closer, I wanted him to be a big part of it, and I wanted to like advertise on his channel, and he felt really uncomfortable about me paying him. Like, he didn't want to take any money, so like ultimately he was like, "Dude, I'm just gonna do it. Don't worry about it. This is I'm your friend. I don't want to do like a sponsorship. I'm just gonna help you out." So at least for me, he's been very helpful. But at the same time, you got to understand, like, Filippo has really turned this into like a business, man. I mean, he's putting out content all the time. He's got people getting at him all the time, and he has access to new people, and I think that's a big part of it. Like, kind of as you grow in this space, and you bring new people into the tent, you have access to new groups of people. So maybe before he was kind of swimming in a small pond and talking to these people. Now he's in a larger pond, and he's able to make new connections and talk to new people. And I think that's like kind of what he's pursuing right now.
That's interesting. It seems like he has changed. I don't know. Since he was smaller to now, the toxicity has gone up. I don't know. I just don't like watching him as much, and I've kind of, been watching more of you and Jake and the Straight Red Card, those kinds of guys. So I'm really happy that you guys have been working together. I don't
want to get into that territory. I keep things positive. I'm a friend of Filippo's, and I like I like what he does, and I appreciate what he does for the community. He's brought a lot of people into this space, and that he's a juggernaut.
Yeah, he definitely has.
I do appreciate that, but at the same time, I think all of us, as we grow, are going to change and kind of shift gears and move focus. So I think that's just kind of a part of things. Whenever you start out and you're making content for 30 people, you're going to approach things differently whenever all of a sudden you're making content for 15,000 people. Things kind of change. But I got to move on, man. I appreciate you calling in. Anything else you want to talk about?
I appreciate what you do. No, that's it.
Thanks, man. All right, guys. That was nice. I know I had a few people call in while he was on the line, so, if you call back, the line is now open. Tax stole his girl. What's up, Mike Irish? Hey, what's up? You're on the Yank Report. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're calling from. Hello? Hello? Oh, I turned it off. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's up? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Cedric. I'm from Atlanta.
What's up, Cedric?
Yeah, I might comment on your Twitter. Yeah, I might comment on your Twitter every now and again.
I think I know who you are, man. Your name's Cedric on Twitter, right?
Yeah, Cedric Jr.
Yeah. Okay. What you got, man?
Hey, man. Hey, man, I love the show. But there was one thing I did really want to talk about the striker situation again. I don't have to say, like, I mean, I watched your video, and it's all I talked about my friends too. It was just like, all our strikers are young. Like, I would say like the average age of our strikers is around 20, 22, 20, 21, 22-ish, right?
Our strikers? I mean, our strikers right now are like, let's see, Haji Wright, I think is 24, Jesus Ferreira is 21, and Ricardo Pepi is 19.
Yeah, so average age, our average, like, under 25.
Yeah.
And
I mean, our whole team is under 25. There's only a couple of guys that are under 25.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. So, like, I just honestly think the fan base as a whole, we just need to be patient with the striker thing. That's really it. Because, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, just like you can look at like the best strikers in the world right now. Most of them are over 30. I'm not saying our strikers will be at that level. But I'm just saying like most strikers don't peak until like their late 20s.
No, it's true. I mean, if you look around the world at the strikers that are at the top level, I mean, Kareem Benzema just had one of the best seasons of his career, and he is over 30, I believe. I think there's only a few strikers that are young and making noise. I mean, the big one's going to be Erling Haaland. I believe he's still under 20, and then Jonathan David over at Lille, the Canadian striker, is 21. Now, he had a big season last year, and he kind of slowed down a little bit, but there's still a lot of expectation. Yeah. But other than those guys, I don't know too many others, and usually whenever strikers hit their peak, it's a little bit later on. It's one of those positions that there's a lot of little things to learn. It's about timing, it's about kind of strength, and about reading the defense and kind of arriving at that spot at the right time. It's really about putting yourself in the position to score goals. It's why guys like Chicharito have been so successful for so long. I mean, Chicharito's not a guy that's like overly physically strong. He's pretty quick over a short distance, but he's not really known for his speed. He just has unbelievable movement. He has unbelievable anticipation, and he consistently puts himself in the right position to score goals. He misses a lot of goals. If you watch him with LA Galaxy, I mean, he's missing two shots to every one he makes. Maybe it's even worse than that, but he gives himself so many opportunities that he's able to score goals. I think you're right.
You gotta put yourself there.
Yeah, I think you're right that I mean, it's tough to expect a whole lot from our strikers, but at the same time, we're in a position right now where because of the timetable, because the World Cup is in a couple of months, and because, honestly, older strikers have let these guys down. Like, Haji Wright was destined to be great whenever he was a youth prospect. He didn't really achieve that. Josie Altidore, I believe, is 31, 32, something like that. He should be at the peak of his career right now, and he's fallen off. So because those guys, and Josh Sargent was supposed to be the guy, he wasn't. Because those guys have fallen off, it's put an enormous amount of pressure on someone like Ricardo Pepi or someone like Jesus Ferreira to kind of step up in this big moment. The reality is, that much pressure shouldn't be on a 19-year-old that's still trying to sort things out at his club career, but just because of the way everything's fallen, it's fallen on those guys. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. You have a guy that's not even 20 yet, and you're expecting the world out of him. I love that dude. I think the guy's going to be a star. Like most of us think. It's just he. What it was last year, like his first, or maybe second professional season, and he's just
yeah.
Yeah.
He
just
played
made
a
a move
little
to
bit.
Europe.
He played a little bit in MLS last season. This was like his first like real stint as a professional, and it was just like a whirlwind for him. I mean, he hit the ground running for FC Dallas. He was scoring so many goals that he couldn't be taken off the field. He ends up with the national team. He's scoring goals for the national team. Suddenly, he's this Mexican-American dual international savior, and he's representing this enormous group of people in the country. And then he gets the big move to Augsburg. It's a lot of pressure for a 19-year-old, and people are looking at his move to Augsburg, where he's only had a few months over there, and already saying like it wasn't a good move. He shouldn't have gone. The reality is this type of move, it may not pay dividends for another couple of years, and that's like perfectly okay in the realm of a striker. Maybe not so much because of the amount of money that Augsburg paid him. Like they're kind of expecting things right away, but at the same time, it's not all that unusual for a 19-year-old to take as a striker to take a few years to develop.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take like a lot of mental, mental strength and everything, man. It's like start even with Sargent and even Haji, right? They're still young. They still have to get they got to get from stubbing their toe in the water to actually swimming.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It's going to take a while.
Josh Sargent is 21 years old, and he's been playing as a professional in a top flight league since he was 18 years old. He's got a ton of experience for a 21-year-old, and strikers tend to not even break in until they're like 24-ish, So Josh Sargent has 3 more years until he's 24. So what is Josh Sargent going to look like when he's 24 years old? Maybe he's not a striker anymore, but there's still be a very experienced player relative to like the recent past for U.S. men's national team players. Jesus Ferreira is another guy that's 21 years old. This is his first season playing as a striker, and he's leading MLS in scoring. I know that there's a lot of pressure on him to score for the national team, and there's a lot of national team pressure, but at the same time, guys who lead the league in scoring at 21 years old in MLS tend to get sold for great deals of money to Europe. It's a special thing that he's doing right now. We're kind of hard on him so much because of the predicament that he's in, but it's a remarkable thing that these guys are doing.
Yeah. And one more thing, Sam. This is another thing I really want to lead on to. Since you're talking about his form in MLS, he's top scorer. And we were talking about this with Areola on Twitter. Every time about Areola being the form, he talked about Christian Roldan as well. And it's kind of like us comparing the MLS form to European form. You can take a guy like Timo Weah. He didn't have the most productive season. I don't know exactly what his stats were. I know he got two goals towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
But, he came to camp. The guy's balling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Areola came in. Well, before I say that, he was balling in the Morocco game, obviously. He was balling in the first half of the Uruguay game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Second half comes in. Areola plays, and as a lot of people say, like the offense wasn't flowing how it was when Timo was on.
Yeah, I don't think that Paul Areola is as good a player as Tim Weah. I don't think I'm breaking much news by saying that. I think that's reality.
Yeah.
As far as like comparing MLS to the European leagues, it's an inexact science, and nobody really has the answer. I think about it like if you're an NFL fan or a college or an NBA fan or something like that, or a Major League Baseball fan. Like the scouts don't know who's going to be good coming out of college. The scouts don't know that the starting quarterback at Alabama is going to be how he's going to play versus like a starting quarterback at a Sun Belt Conference school. Sometimes the Sun Belt Conference player comes out and is way better than the Heisman Trophy winning player from Alabama. It just kind of works out like that. Nobody really knows how players are going to develop. Now, there's things that we can look at, like Paul Arriola, for instance. He's a little bit older, so we kind of have an idea of what he's going to be already.
Yeah.
Tim Weah is a lot younger player. Tim Weah is a lot more physically gifted than Paul Arriola. We saw Paul Arriola get pushed around. So we know that Paul Arriola doesn't really have the technical ability at that high-end level. We know that he is not physically strong. He can get pushed off the ball. So a lot of those things, once you get to a higher level where the players are better with the ball at the feet and are physically stronger, you can see that that's not going to translate. But for someone like Ricardo Pepi or Jesus Ferreira, you kind of look at some of these other things. How's their first touch? How's their soccer IQ? Like some of these other attributes. And people get it wrong all the time. I mean, big time, like Real Madrid brings in players. Like, think about this. How big of a can't-miss prospect was Eden Hazard when Real Madrid brought him in? I mean, he was already one of the best players in the Premier League for like a decade by the time Real Madrid brought him in. He was unbelievable. And he gets to Real Madrid, and he's not playing. He's ineffective for that squad. It's so difficult to predict these things. Cedric, man, I appreciate the call. It's been great. I got to let you go.
Yeah. All right, man. Love you, Sam.
All right, later, man. Great call from Cedric, man. Great call from Cedric. I had another person calling in while Cedric was on the line, so if you want to give a call back, the line is open. Oh, my goodness. What's up, caller? You're on the Yank Report. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're calling from.
Yes, this is D-Rec.
D-Rec?
Yes, I'm calling from Los Angeles, where I currently live with Charlie Sheen.
You sound like someone I've talked to before. I'm just going to put that out there. But caller, what are you interested in talking about right now?
I wanted to ask a question. What is more ridiculous? Pulisic's new haircut or Herc saying that Musa is a poor man's Nagby?
First of all, I have always argued that once you get to a certain level of player, you have to up your haircut game. Like I look at, I've been arguing with Filippo about Rafinha for a long time. I always say that Rafinha does not have a top of the table haircut. Like he's got a distinct mid-table haircut, and there's some opportunities there, but he's not really seizing them. So Christian Pulisic, if you notice, like the Christian Pulisic clean-cut kid that was at Dortmund, he gets over to Chelsea. At Chelsea, everybody's driving sports cars and living a different lifestyle. So he had to change the haircut. I think that now that he's kind of grown into, he's kind of starting into grown man status. He's kind of stepping out. He's saying a little bit more on the microphone, and he's kind of embracing his role as this most important player for his national team. I think the time is now for him to get that ridiculous haircut and kind of step into those waters. So for me, the more
you've got to have a pair of big. You got to have a pair of big ones to have that done on your hair.
Definitely have to have. You either have to have a pair of big ones or you got to have a thick wallet, and I think he's got both. As far as Hurt Gomez saying that Yunus Musa is a poor man's Darlington Nagbe, that's a tough take, man. That's a tough take. I mean, I enjoyed Darlington Nagbe. I think that he was a great player, and I do wonder what this national team would have looked like a few months ago, whenever they were just starting out, like in the beginning of World Cup qualifying in Nations League, maybe even Gold Cup. If Darlington Nagbe was with this squad, I think it would have given us a lot more security in midfield. It would have made somebody like Sebastian Lletget not get much playing time. I think Darlington Nagbe, I mean, if he might have a spot in this team right now if he wanted to. But I think Yunus Musa just has so much damn upside. Like, there's just so few players in the world that I've seen. Like, there was a play, I can't remember whether it was against Morocco or Uruguay. I think it was Morocco, where he was literally standing. He was the last one back. It was him and it was Matt Turner behind him. He had the ball at the top of the box, and he just took on a man 1v1, beat him, and took off down the field. His confidence in his 1v1 ability and his ability to break out and just be a one-man build-up is unbelievable. I can't wait to see what this kid does in the future. So I think the ridiculous take is... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I said Musa has a higher ceiling. There is no doubt about it. But I just think that Hurt forgot what a poor man is. I'm not sure he knew what that meant. That's all I was saying there.
I think you might be right there.
I got one more question for you, Sam. And by the way, we love you out here in LA.
Go ahead.
And my boys back in Indiana love you too. All right. The one last question is, Dave, funnier soccer name, David Seaman or Federico Balzaretti? Which one's funnier?
I think David Seaman has to be it, man. I think like there's just I've never been able to pronounce that or hear somebody else say it without kind of chuckling. Like Balzaretti's a great shout. It's a great shout.
It is.
I would go with Seaman because he has to wear it on the back of his jersey. Like that's a toss up, man. That's a toss up.
All right. I love you, Sam. And hey, my balls are always fresh.
Hey, I
good night.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a
great
night, man.
show.
Thank you for the call. Oh, man. This has been fun so far, guys. I was not sure how this would go, but so far it's been so good. The phone line is open, so if you'd like to call in, now's the time. Caller, you're on the Yank Report. Tell me where you're calling from. What's your name?
This is Felix from Chicago.
Felix, what's going on, man? Are you the Felix from Chicago that calls into the Best Soccer Show?
I am.
Oh.
Yeah, actually.
Okay, I've heard you before. What's going on, man? What you got?
Nothing. First off, I wanted to say I really appreciate your channel. I really appreciate your content. Like I've said this a lot of time in the comments in your after your videos is I always appreciate your takes because you're never afraid to come out and take some unique, make a unique take, whether it's, kind of coming out strong, saying Hoppy's probably a little overrated. That video you did on Michael Brooks, like everyone is on the Michael Brooks Michael Brooks. Yeah, John Brooks is like a martyr of Berhalter's incompetence, and you came out and you offered a different perspective. So I've always really appreciated that. So I think I really like your channel. That's why I ended up supporting you. So a question I wanted to have is center backs. I know everyone's, Miles kind of going down, kind of messed things up, and the fact that no one's really. I know everyone's got an opinion, but I think we can probably all agree that no one's taken the spot by the reins, right? Whether it's CCV, whether it's Eric Palmer Brown, whether it's Aaron Long, no one's come in with their play and say, "This is my spot," right? We're all projecting who we'd like, but I think we can probably be honest with ourselves. No one's taking that role.
I try to do.
So what are your thoughts?
I try to do this thing after every game. I'll put out a tweet that says, like, has your opinion changed on anything after that game? And it always cracks me up that I'll get a lot, like a handful of people that'll say, well, my opinion has been solidified that Aaron Long is terrible, or something like that, or that CCV is great, or like whatever. So you didn't have an opinion change. You're just reiterating what your opinion was before. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the big thing that I've learned throughout this is how damn good Miles Robinson has been for this team throughout World Cup qualifying. He was a secure blanket, and while everybody criticized his build-up and his passing, myself included, I think he's one of those guys that was very secure in his passing, but also not very brave. It's not like we were getting a lot of line-breaking passes or balls forward. But I think in the defense, he was just so good. And I think that his injury and having to test out these three guys has illuminated that. I think as far as Aaron Long versus CCV versus EPB, I was told up and down that CCV was like going to come into camp and just show everybody that he was a cut above. I don't know that I've seen that. Haven't seen much from Eric Palmer Brown that shows me he's levels above Long either. I think it's Long's position to lose at this point. But nobody's wowed me, and I'm once again hoping that Chris Richards can get a spot to start at the start of next season, can get some playing time early, and come in and be the starting center back next to Walker Zimmerman at this point. Like, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I do have some concerns about Chris Richards. He's not the greatest in the air, as his statistics will show.
No, none of these guys are perfect. There's no, I mean,
right? No, clearly,
yeah. Virgil van Dijk is not like waiting around to get the call up from the U.S. men's national team. There is no perfect answer, and well, I got criticized in my last video because people were like, Walker Zimmerman made mistakes. Like, all these guys are going to make mistakes. These aren't world-class center backs. Oh, by the way, world-class center backs make mistakes too. Like, everybody in like defenses get undone. Like people score goals. That happens. Like, you know, Real Madrid gets scored on sometimes. Liverpool gets scored on sometimes. People make mistakes, and these guys are going to make mistakes. And as the level increases, like, one of my favorite things is like, how's Walker Zimmerman going to do against France or something like that? It's like, how's anybody going to do against France? Like, no, you can't stop Mbappe. Like, nobody can stop Mbappe. I don't know what you're expecting. So all we can do at this point is pick the best of what we have. I think Walker Zimmerman has emerged as the best of what we have, and we're trying to see if that next guy will step up. I think it's Aaron Long has it, I think, just because he had it coming in and nobody's taken it from him, which is not really what you want to see if you're a fan. You want to see somebody step up and earn that. Even if it's Aaron Long, you want to see him step up and earn that. But at the same time, I think that through the two games versus Morocco and Uruguay, though the U.S. did give up some chances, they weren't super crazy chances throughout the game. And whenever I think about that, I think about like the end of the Switzerland game like a year ago, whenever we were just, I mean, they were just pouring through us like a knife through butter. Our defense could do nothing to stop them. I didn't really sense that as much in the Uruguay game until like all the substitutions were made in the second half is whenever we kind of really started to give up chances. But I thought throughout those two games, the guys look good enough. Like, they're going to be able to put out a good enough level to where we're going to be able to compete. It's not going to be an open door defense, but it's also not going to be as great as some of the other positions. That's just where we are right now. That's the reality.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping that Eric Palmer-Brown would come in and take that job. I really thought the fact that he did so well in the tough situation, you know, kind of getting bounced around kind of the way Matt Miazga has, and the fact that he was able to win that job to the point where I think it's a permanent move now, and do well in a tough league, right? The Ligue 1 is clearly the top five in the world. But he did not. I mean, honestly, of the three, I thought he was the least convincing.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
To be
I
blunt.
thought at this point, I think it's Long, CCV, and EPB is where we're at. Felix, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, the one thing I did want to ask you, this is kind of because you're taking this a little bit more meta. I've heard some of the questions. So clearly, you did this out of passion, right? Mm-hmm. Like the rest of us, we'd love the U.S. national team. It's almost like a club team to me. I don't actually support a club, really.
Yeah, same.
I just watch it. But I love the U.S. men's national team. And so you kind of started the channel out of passion. Now that it's become work, quote unquote work, how has that taken talking about it because you love it, now talking about it because you have to? How has it changed how you as a fan or wanting to talk about it? Is it still enjoyable, or is there times you're like, I really don't want to break down a roster and talk about Paul Arriola or talk about, I'm just throwing Arriola under the bus, but talking about someone like this for the millionth time, I just kind of want to watch. I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think long before I started a channel, I was having like strong opinions that I felt like were outside of the box and were kind of against like the meta opinion and like offered a different take. And I would like write up big posts on like the US Soccer subreddit or Soccer by Ives or like some of these other places. So I've been thinking about this team like in this way for a long time, and this has just given me an opportunity to kind of exercise that. The national team games have always been like a huge priority in my life, as sad as that sounds. So setting time aside to like make content around them so far has not been an issue. The only issues that I run into with it is like whenever my real job has me working a lot and I have to like figure out how to make content and do the other things that I have to do around that. So that can be difficult. But so far it hasn't been an issue. Now, to your question about like having to talk about specific things, I don't have to talk about anything I don't want to talk about. I don't think like I've never like approached the channel in a way that like I'm going to talk about the things that like are going to get the most views or like talk about like the meta or like be controversial or whatever. Like a great example of that was like the Christian Pulisic's comments about Morocco post game. Like I didn't make a tweet about that. I didn't make a video about that. I didn't say anything about that. I thought it was just such a non-story that like I never even like mentioned it. So maybe it'll keep growing to the point where like I have to talk about these things. I realize if you get to the point where like say like Alexi Lawless has a weekly podcast where like they have to talk about every single thing in American soccer. Like maybe I don't know, but I'm just still so passionate about it that I don't really think about it as something that I had to do. It's still something that I get to do. So that's a good thing.
Awesome. Can I make a request maybe for when the European season kicks off?
Yeah,
if I can be so bold. Talking about original content, right? And you'll see a lot of people, they'll do like Yanks Abroad, like the breakdown the next week, right? Oh, so-and-so played 20 minutes, so-and-so scored a goal, so-and-so didn't get off the bench. Or you'll see an interview with like an under 20 or a dual national, like, we're interviewing Alex Mighton or someone like that, right? One thing that you never hear, because us fans, right, we'll sit there and just debate and yell about John Brooks should be on the team or why isn't Conrad De La Fuente get on or whatever. But no one ever actually interviews the fans of these clubs who know these players much more probably than any of us do. If we can get maybe some fans or some media guys on, like a Marseille fan who can speak English, who can get on and say, look, this is what I see about Conrad. You guys are nuts that you're not playing him. Or the opposite. You guys are crazy. Why are you talking about him so much? He's terrible. So it would be interesting to get someone like that on to offer that perspective. Because us as fans, we're seeing what we want to see, to be blunt, you know?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Felix. And it's actually something that I was like looking into. I know one of my favorite videos that I did or favorite interviews that I did this year was whenever I interviewed the reporter from Panama and got to hear like her perspective on the national team and on CONCACAF and stuff. And it was so interesting. It was really cool. I actually reached out to someone who has they have a pretty big YouTube channel and they cover European soccer and they're not American, and I wanted to get like their opinion on the national team and American fans and kind of like how we are and kind of like a outside looking in kind of perspective. But yeah, that's a really cool idea. I'd love to do more of that. Felix, I gotta let you go, man. I got other people calling in. I appreciate you calling.
No problem. Thanks, Sam.
Absolutely. Hey, caller, you are on the Yank Report. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Austin, Texas.
Hey, man, you going to the game?
Game today?
No,
or tomorrow? Nah.
I'll be there. I'm going to be heading over there tomorrow.
Oh, hell yeah. Love that stadium, man. I go to most of the Austin FC games.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
man.
It's great. My main question right off the bat, I'm a Chelsea fan. First and foremost, I'll be the U.S. fan, of course. But on Pulisic, he's done great for the club from time to time. Obviously, there's rumors. He's been up and down. We see that both on club and on country. Uh-huh. What's your feel with a player like that? What's your feel with him staying at a club like that or leaving at a club like that? Where would you want him to go? Because as a Chelsea fan,
it's
honestly
like there, right?
At this time, if he leaves, it's actually beneficial because he hasn't produced as much as we would have thought he would have.
Yeah, I think at the absolute cream of the crop top flight teams, which Chelsea is, there's only a handful of those in the world. There's, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, PSG, Real Madrid, and maybe Barcelona, if you want to throw them in there. Bayern Munich is in the mix as well. I think at these top teams, you are seeing a lot of rotation. You're not seeing a lot of guys that are playing every game, and I think that's going to be true no matter where you go until you ascend to this level where you like can't be taken off, like maybe a Kareem.
The Mo Salahs, the higher echelons.
Yeah. So I don't think he's quite on that echelon, but he's certainly on the echelon where he belongs
Definitely not.
at one of these super clubs. So I think
Certainly.
He has two options. Like, he can go to another super club like he's at right now, like a super top tier club, where he'll probably be in a similar situation where he is right now.
I was gonna say it. He'd be treated similar, I think.
Yeah, like people want him to go to Liverpool. If he goes to Liverpool, he's going to be a player that backs up one of the big stars, unless one of the big stars leaves.
Yeah, he's gonna be competing with Luis Diaz.
Yeah. So he'll be in a similar situation like he's at Chelsea. The other option would be to go maybe a tier down, and a tier down right now would be AC
better.
Milan or like something like Juventus, something like that.
Totally. Or within the EPL, but honestly,
not a Champions League
fucking
team.
some Newcastle shit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but
up and coming, got a bunch of money. They're putting money into it. He could be the star for 2 or 3 years.
And you mentioned money. I think that's a big thing. We forget he's at a club like Chelsea where he's getting paid ridiculous sums of money, and nobody wants to get paid less money. So he's not going to end up at like Aston Villa or something like that. He's not going to go somewhere where.
Yeah, no way. So not going to happen.
That ain't going to happen. He wants
and
to
also,
keep
it's also a big money tag just to be from the U.S. playing in Europe.
Yeah,
good viewership or the potential.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So as far as where I would like to see him go, I think he's been fine at Chelsea, and I think another side of this thing is that he's been off and on partly because he's only been available off and on. He struggled to stay on the field.
I agree.
For one reason or another, whether it be injuries or something else, there's been things that have kept him off the field. So I think a big step forward for him would be putting together a season where he's healthy and being consistent. And then there's people out there that make the argument that a club like Chelsea's great for him because he gets that rotation. If he was in a situation where he was expected to play every single week, his body might not be able to hold up. So there's that element as well.
He still played over 30. I think he still played over 30 or 40 actual matches.
Yeah, he had a big season this year.
Maybe, like even with injuries and a little bit of form here and there.
Yeah. And the funny thing about him is he got a lot of substitute appearances and things like that. But if you look at some of his next level analytics, like a lot of people like break down and just to find like whatever categories were Christian's like leading the team. And he actually did have a lot of goals compared to the amount of minutes that he played. And I think his
certainly
XG per 90 was
his
pretty
production
big.
Was not bad.
Yeah. So for him, it's just about staying on the
I
field.
have another really quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's about our wingbacks. Anthony Robinson, yes, if they're all perfect, we know they're going to be there. What do you see our backups for them as? With Scally coming in, being a little bit of a, he could a little more versatile, a left to right guy, young, not experienced. And then we got a big boy on the right that's been there forever in Yedlin. Old dog, but maybe the job's not always done the way we like it, but the job is done. Who do you see and how important do you see those roles?
I see right now, I think that we're going to see what we saw towards the tail end of World Cup qualifying, which is Berhalter bringing in 3 right backs and 1 left back with the expectation that Serginho Dest is the backup left back. I was really excited about the game that we saw from Reggie Cannon for a lot lot of different reasons.
He did well.
Yeah, the biggest reason is because
it was good to see because there was a couple of hiccups. What I don't know, 6-7 months ago, where like there were some games where. And some club shit, right? Didn't he have some weird shit with some club?
Yeah, he did. His club
or a transfer bullshit or some shit.
It's got a lot going on. I think that their owner is in some deep water, and it's just there's a lot of weird situation over there. But the thing is that Reggie Cannon, he's always been fairly solid defensively, but moving forward, he's not that great. But we put him in a situation where we don't have to worry about that. He's playing as a right-sided center back in the defense, and there you get a little bit plus ball skills from him, and you don't have to worry about him going forward. And what else it does is it turns your left back into a left wing back and allows him to focus on the attack, which is great for Anthony Robinson, who, once again, I mean,
Who
we've kind
loves
of
to
put,
get up there.
yeah, we've put Anthony Robinson on a pedestal, but I think a lot of that has to do with us not using him in the build-up and limiting some of the rough areas of his game and allowing him to accentuate the positive areas. But also, if Serginho Dest is playing that position, he's suddenly a super dynamic player in the attack, and I think that that's an option that we'll see.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, though, has to do with how many roster spots get allotted. We know that it's 23 right now. Everybody's expecting it to be 26.
26, yeah.
So
yeah.
if it gets to 26, does Greg decide to bring an extra defensive back? Is it going to be an extra center back? How's he going to approach that with the roster? Because it'll probably be an extra player at every position group, as in like defenders, midfielders, forwards. So how he decides to allocate that. I've heard people say that maybe that gives somebody like James Sands an opportunity because he's a center back that can play in the 3-man back line.
But he can play inside too.
Yeah, so he can kind of play a lot of different interesting positions and offer that. So maybe with an extra roster spot, you give that guy an opportunity.
Because I feel like Scally gives us that option on the left and the right, similar to how Dest does. Like, you don't bring him up because he's a dedicated. You bring him up because he can get you out of some trouble.
Yeah, I just don't know. The two games we saw from Scally look like Scally has a long distance to go.
Oh, he's got a ton to learn. Ton to learn.
I think if we would have saw that from him in the first game of World Cup qualifying, maybe he would have had a long enough runway. But at this point, where we're likely going to see the 26 that are going to Qatar in the next window, I don't think it's likely that we see Scally. You got anything else?
Yeah. No, good, man. Thank you for the talk.
All right, I appreciate the call.
Have a good time at the game, man. That stadium's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for calling in. All right, guys. We got like 5 minutes left, so I think we got time for one more call. If somebody wants to call, we got a call right away. Caller, you're on the Yank Report. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Sparkle Duck from the Ether.
Hello, Sparkle Duck from the Ether. Sparkle Duck, are you responsible for some of the other ducks that I've seen in the comment section, or is these just alternative ducks?
Well, I've been several ducks in my time. I can't speak to
I think
any
we've all
other
been
ducks,
several ducks in our time. What you got, man?
Okay. Well, you know that episode from The Office where they're all watching the screensaver and they're trying to hope to see if it goes in the corner?
Yes.
Yeah, that is what I'm hoping to see every time that I watch your show, like the little side screen that you have.
Yeah,
Can you just change that to where eventually all of the circles are not in the corner at some point, and I can cheer for it,
Okay, whenever you're talking about that, are you talking about the thing that says Yank Report that scrolls, or are you talking about like the box where the pictures go?
Box where the pictures go. Oh my God, it almost happens. Like, I can see it almost happening, but it never happens. So if you could just change it to maybe once every 3 episodes, you know what happens?
Here's the thing, Sparkle Duck. I made that in After Effects a long time ago, and it took a lot of processing power, and it was very complicated. I don't remember how to do it. I had to look up how to do it while I was doing it. I don't see myself changing that anytime soon. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to live with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Do you have any soccer-related questions? We only got a few minutes left.
Well, I have some soccer-related questions. I've never been a big fan of Tyler Adams. What do you think our chances are with him at the 6?
What do you think our chances are with Tyler Adams at the 6? I think that Tyler Adams gives us the best opportunity to win games right now. I think that, gosh, I just listened to Greg Berhalter's press conference, and he talked about one of the things that makes him really happy about this team is the ability on offense to put pressure on the opposition and on defense to put pressure on the opposition. I think that that's the main weapon that this squad has. And I think the fulcrum of that pressure is Tyler Adams. We know, I've talked forever about what he can do off the ball. He shuts down attacks before they start. He's constantly getting in passing lanes. He's constantly putting out fires that we don't even know are there. The only time we know is whenever Tyler Adams is not in the game. If you think back to prior to Nations League when Tyler Adams was injured, and just us dealing with Jackson Ewell and us dealing with Kellen Acosta, and just the amount of counterattacks we were giving up, and how soft our defense was, that's long gone, and largely because Tyler Adams has returned to the squad. The thing that you're talking about likely is what Tyler Adams does on the ball, which does leave a little bit to be desired. And we get kind of seduced at times whenever we like. I know Luca De La Torre came in at the like last 20 minutes of that Morocco game, and everybody got excited seeing like a player back there moving the ball around. Gianluca Busio is another player that maybe 6 months ago, people were talking about him potentially being an option as a 6, and him being like a different look for the 6. And all those things may be possible moving forward. But I think for this iteration of the team that we're going to see in the World Cup, the main weapon that we have is our ability to press the opposition. And somebody like Tyler Adams gives us that opportunity more than anybody else. So I don't think Tyler Adams is going anywhere right now.
Okay. Well, after watching these friendlies, I'm not super excited about 2022, but 2026, my God, I really think we have something there.
2026 is going to be exciting. 2030 is going to be exciting. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Sparkle Doc, thank you so much for calling in, man.
Hey, thanks, Sam.
Absolutely. Guys, we are hitting an hour. And although I'm a little bummed because like the first 5 minutes was me trying to figure out how to use the phone and kind of missing out on some stuff, and you guys having to deal with that. I think once we got into the groove, it was really cool. So I appreciate that. I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing, guys, where you guys are going to have the opportunity to call in and talk about the squad. So I look forward to doing this again. I'll keep you posted on when the next one's going to be. Thank you guys so much for coming or coming to the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you everybody that called in. That is so cool. Whenever you start something new, the biggest thing you worry about is like, is anybody even going to show up? Am I just going to be sitting here with my headphones on, waiting like as Chris Gary makes fun of me in the chat, like, is that what's going to go on? But I appreciate you guys for calling up and supporting. I appreciate you guys supporting since 76. I mean, that's another situation where, you're worried, is anybody actually going to order these shirts? Does anybody care about this? It's the same thing whenever you're starting a new YouTube channel. Is anybody going to watch this? Is anybody going to pay attention? You're starting this new thing and you're just reaching out into the darkness and hoping you hear a voice back on the other side of the darkness. And I appreciate you guys for always being there. So thank you for watching. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for becoming a member. Thank you for all the support, you guys. I appreciate it. We're going to do this again real soon. My name is